So today could be a wild day in the college football news department, and the reason is quite simple. It's because tomorrow, May 1st, is the cutoff date for individuals entering the transfer portal to be able to have instant eligibility. And because of that, we could see a lot of movement today, and we need to break it all down. But before we do, as always, y'all know the drill. I need to hear from you. Hop down to the comments, Y for yes, N for no. Do you believe we will see a lot of entries and exits from the transfer portal this weekend? And let me know what you're thinking. If you are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. Hit that bell notification as I do constant college football content. You don't want to miss any of it. And if you enjoyed the content, like and comment down below, as those interactions, though seemingly small, are incredibly impactful to content creators such as myself in both getting picked up and maintained by the YouTube algorithm. But having said all of that, let's jump right into this because we need to talk about several different players who are testing the transfer portal, and we're going to start in the Pac-12, where Arizona State continues their unfortunate offseason of losing players to the portal. This time, a former top 300 recruit in all of high school football, Ezra Dotson, the interior offensive lineman out the state of Texas. And Dotson is an individual that in a perfect world, Arizona State would have loved to have kept. And the reason is quite simple. It's because depth in the trenches is of massive importance. I talk about this at length. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about it now, but the basis of my theory here is that you're much more likely to win football games if you have adequate depth on both the offensive line and the defensive line, because everything starts in the trenches. So whenever these offensive linemen, and more specifically, whenever these former top offensive linemen coming out of high school, such as Ezra Dotson, test the transfer portal, I don't think they'll be there long because so many teams are still scrambling to try and find answers for their own offensive lines that an individual such as this with such a high upside is going to be an intriguing player, and I think that he'll have many suitors. And like I said, with Ezra being out the state of Texas, if he chooses to go home and play his collegiate football, he has several different options and several different teams that I think would be interested. And this is a situation we have got to watch closely. But speaking of the state of Texas, the Texas Longhorns have had a bevy of individuals test the waters of the transfer portal this week. And it's not totally surprising, because when we look at the list, we'll find out that two of the names are wide receivers, in Kelvonte Dixon and Dejon Harrison. Look, I always talk about this. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction, and the transfer portal is not exempt from that line of logic. If anything, it just goes to prove that line of logic and how true it is. And those positive actions of getting those talented playmakers on the outside in Ajayi Hall and Isaiah Nayor, it's bound to have that reaction, and that reaction in this case is individuals who are already on roster who are maybe pushing for more playing time, testing the transfer portal because now they have a bunch more talented players in front of them, and it's going to be even harder to find that playing time. So I wasn't surprised at all to see wide receivers from the Longhorns test the transfer portal. The transfer portal is college football's ultimate pendulum, as I call it, and it's a pendulum for a reason. But what I was a bit more surprised about was to see some of the depth on the defensive front testing the transfer portal, in which case the Texas Longhorns lost David Abira, an edge rusher. They lost Jordan Thomas, an edge rusher. They lost defensive lineman Myron Warren, and that's a bit surprising to me because that was an area I thought Texas would be trying to keep all the depth they could. The Longhorns were actually able to obtain Mathis. It would put these losses in a different perspective because they'd be getting in such an experienced talent from TCU that has proven so much and given so much production. And lastly, the last player we need to talk about is entering the transfer portal for the second time, but I don't think that's going to diminish how many teams are interested, because it's not every day that a former top 75 player in all of high school football enters the transfer portal. Because Quavarius Crouch, the former number 3 athlete in his respective recruiting class, is testing the transfer portal from Michigan State. And if that name sounds familiar to you, it's because Quavarius Crouch was a former top prospect out of high school who had originally committed to Tennessee, and he primarily played running back. However, once he got to college football, he was converted to a linebacker, and he's been working his way up ever since. He transferred from Tennessee and found his way to Michigan State, in which case he had a lot of success with the Spartans. But as the Spartans have continued to add in pieces, Crouch tests the transfer portal once again, and it is my understanding that he will have to have a waiver in order to gain access to instant eligibility, but given everything that was going on at Tennessee, I don't expect that waiver to be really hard to come by. And so we're going to have to watch this situation, but I could be wrong there. And if I am, please drop down in the comments. Let me know. I'm never mad about being wrong. I just want to learn. So let me know what you think about Quavarius Crouch. But regardless, at the end of the day, an individual this talented at the linebacker position testing the transfer portal is sure to raise eyebrows. Someone who has had productive seasons in college football gives you really the best of both worlds. Someone who you know still has more development to go in reaching their ceiling. Somebody you know has plenty of athleticism and explosiveness, and somebody that's put together all of that in a successful college season. That right there is the trifecta, and that's what so many institutions are after out the transfer portal, and Quavarius Crouch gives it to them in abundance. So because of that, Crouch is an individual that I believe will have a ton of suitors. A lot of coaches will be calling, and if your institution is looking at more linebacker depth, I don't know why you wouldn't call. Anytime you have these individuals with so much natural ability, but then when you look at them and they still have more to go in the realms of development in their respective position, that's an intriguing individual, and it really goes to highlight what I just said, that Crouch is almost a trifecta. You have more to go in terms of developing, so if an institution brings him in, they can continue coaching them up in the way they would like. You have a ton of natural ability, a ton of explosion, and then finally you have someone who's actually put it together on a college field, and not just a college field, in the Big Ten. He was successful in the Big Ten, and when you combine all of that, it makes it such an intriguing situation. One we're going to have to sit and watch, because I don't expect Crouch to be in the portal for very long. So, with all of that being said, hop down to the comments, let me know what you're thinking about, let me know names you're looking at in the transfer portal, or names you expect to hit the transfer portal today, as I undoubtedly think we will be seeing each other again very soon this afternoon. That's it. See ya.